Ottoman Turks was the rulers of the city for almost 360 years. Can you imagine this? One ideology, one religion, different nation, different language. That's why even today in Belgrade, in Serbia, you have so many Turkish words. And we are very good friends, neighbors. Even today, komşi. It's a Turkish word for neighbor. Everybody use it. Nobody know. If they ask him how it is in Serbian, they don't know.
Wow.
But they use it. But why? The Turks, they were masters. But also during this whole period, they bring many good things, like any new idea, new civilization, more especially in the beginning, in the middle part, let's say. So this year was 1869. It's a Serbian Cyrillic, and in Belgrade, in Serbia, we use Cyrillic and Latin letters both, and everybody knows to read and write on Cyrillic and even if we read and write, we don't know which one we use. Dual level. Anyway, you see, this is a Prince Michael, the one you can see on the horse in the Republic Square.
Okay.
And Prince Michael, and this is the ruler, commander of the fortress of Belgrade, the Turkish Pasha, the leader. So what is in the back? In Turkish soldiers and the Serbian soldiers, we have the hat. You see the Turkish
the guns.
hat. Yeah, fez. So what is in the back of the Turkish
The
leader?
mosques.
Church.
Yeah.
And the Serbian prince have the mosque.
Oh, it's both of them. Okay.
So it symbolizes
Togetherness.
that we will respect both approach to our life.
Okay. Tolerance.
It's
Yeah.
nice that we have it here. It symbolizes the moment when he gave the keys, symbolically the keys of the city to the Prince Michael, and the Belgrade in Serbia at last became absolutely free and independent.
Nice.
I don't know how much you know about the Belgrade.
Yeah.
And most of the people in most of the part of the world don't know nothing of, or they know just a little bit. This city is amazing city. In many ways, absolutely unique in the history of the mankind.
Wow.
The one reason why it is, it's something really astonishing. It's that the people live here continuously. Can you guess? Almost 9,000 years.
Wow.
9,000 years people live here. There is scientists, scholars, the people who work in archaeological discovering, who today accept idea that the first European capital was just 25 kilometers from Belgrade on the bank of the river Danube.
Wow.
The name, it's a village, the name is Vinča. So in National Museum of Serbia in Belgrade, you can see the beginning of this culture, this civilization, who is really astonishing. Why? Because for a period of almost 2,000 years, in the Stone Age, in the Neolith, the people lived without the weapons, without the walls, without wars, 2,000 years. So we can say, of course, human society can live without the war. We have a proof.
Right.
We live here. Almost 2,000 years. Is it amazing? Yes, of course. But then, the tribes from northwest of Europe, they came to conquer the southeast of Europe. So Celtic tribes came to invade the Balkan Peninsula, and they continue down there in the south to conquer the Greece. It happens in the 3rd and 4th century BC. So on the way, they came near the hilly area in front of the Athens, Delphos, the mountains of Delphos, where is the astonishing temple of Greek gods. Because the Greek believe there is a beginning of the world, that something is very special. They have this idea, special temples, and they come to ask for the answers in some temples. So anyway, what the Greeks do, they wait them They wait the winter time. So it's the first time in history they have the tactic that the Russians use against Napoleon or against the Adolf Hitler. They move back, they move back, they move back, they wait the winter, then they attack. So they beat the Celts go back in the promised land, home. Always home is a promised land. So they go back in northwest of Europe, they stop in the Belgrade and they build the first city between 3rd and 4th century BC. Let's say about 2,500 years more or less. But then, who came? The Roman Empire rise. And then they sent the most famous Roman legion, Flavia the Fourth, Felix. This legion came in Belgrade and they built the city and give the name Singidunum. So the first underground and the first caves and everything they already found, because the Belgrade is a top on the hill and the hill is made from limestone. And that's why the city have, in the 9th century, we have a first document that they use the name Beograd, which means white town. White is white because during the sunny, shiny day like this one, they came by boat, ship. And what they said, the limestone, the white one, on the top of the white stone there was a city, so they start calling the white city, white town. But Romans try to do the best from the Roman Empire. Of course, they know that the most important point in the Roman Empire, except the Rome and the islands who control the Mediterranean Sea on the northern borders, it's a river Danube. Danube was the border. Danube was the Rubicon. So they need to have a strong fortress. Where? Which is the best point? In confluence of two huge big rivers.
Right.
River Sava and River Danube. Why? Why? Because everything in the past, today and tomorrow, they will want only one thing. Control.
And that was the highway. That was the highway of the day, the superhighway, the rivers.
Superhighway, exactly.
Yeah.
So when you have a Belgrade, if you control the Belgrade, you control half of the Europe.
Right.
From Belgrade with Danube, go southeast, you're in the Black Sea, you control Minor Asia and trade and money and everything.
Totally.
If you go northwest, you go to Vienna, German mountains.
It was a key.
If you continue and took the river Sava, you go to the west, to the Alps and Trieste Bay, you control Adriatic Sea. So from this place you have absolute control of the half of the border. That's why the Roman came, that's why they sent the Legia of Flavius the Fourth. Phoenix, they built the huge, strong city with the stones and with about 5,000 troopers.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Even today, 5,000 soldiers, wow. It's a huge number. And of course they need the people to support the city, the people, the soldiers, logistic. And the city started growing. So this was the tower, one of many towers, who protect the entrance in the Roman Singidunum, in the Roman Belgrade. And this period of building is the first walls was built in the 1st century BC, and then in the 1st, 2nd, and the 3rd century our age. So for the period of 450 years, the Romans was the rulers in here. And after that, there is a lot of many interesting things. But before we came, I will tell you just one thing. You know that when you see the Italy today, which is the cradle of the Roman Empire, of course, the biggest number of the Roman emperor was born where? In Serbia.
Oh, wow.
Wait, Constantine? Yes, Constantine was born in. Look, I have here the names of all of them. And the number is 8, 13, 17 of Roman emperors was born in Serbia.
Wow.
One even here in Belgrade.
Wow.
The others was born in the city of Sirmium. Sremska Mitrovica today, which was the capital of province of Mazia. And also there is a little city just 70 kilometers from Belgrade on the bank of the Danube, because Serbia was on the bank of the Sava, then the Belgrade in the center, then in the southeast, Viminacium. So the Romans, they have 3 strong points, 3 strong fortresses, 3 strong military camp. In the middle was the Belgrade, because it was the crossroad, the junction of this
strategic,
the highways of the ancient times.
Yep.
So, of course, still today we have some part of the Roman underground, which is this one.
Wow.
So we called it a Roman room. One beautiful thing that the Roman culture brings us is this. This is old.
It's the lead pipe, isn't
This
it?
is original pipe made from
Lead?
yes.
I've seen those in Ephesus too.
Yes, so it comes, you see, because this is for the fresh drinking water.
Oh, you're kidding. They use these for water?
No, 2,000 years old. Look how they do it.
Lead
How
contaminated
fantastically
water.
they connect it. It costs lot of money. Must be rich cities only have this.
I've
And
never seen the
important city-
connections. Wow.
Yeah, you see the connection.
Wow.
So it comes to today Hotel Moscow.
Wow.
And in Hotel Moscow, there was a aqueduct, the Roman aqueduct. So you know, there was a column, and it comes. Then the water comes, just a tiny falling down. But it comes 7-8 kilometers out of Belgrade, and the fresh water came here. So today said that it's not healthy to drink the water from the pipe like this.
Right.
Of course, it's not if you have a jar or something like a glass and you keep the water for day 2, 3, or 5. But if fresh water continuously come, there is no problem.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Never, because the water make a little film. And if it comes constantly, which the Romans know, in which they done.
Interesting.
So you have a fresh water for 5,000 people inside, for the people outside, from the fresh water well that they already found about more or less 7-8 kilometers from here, which is amazing, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we keep it. So they discovered this when they start to build the first hotel in Belgrade. This building was the first hotel with the name Serbian Crown.
Oh, wow.
And of course, rich people came, they played pool. You know what was the fashion in the beginning of this 20th century.
Right.
But anyway, after that, what happens? The problem was in the First World War. And the history here, and why in the beginning I told you that this city is amazing and unique. Why? Because everybody wants to be here. Everybody wants to control, even today. And the Belgrade is most destroyed city in the history of the world. In some ideas, in some books you can find the number 44. In some others, 47 times Belgrade was destroyed.
Wow.
3 times more than Jerusalem.
Jeez.
Nothing can you compare with this. Only in 20th century, just for one human life, for 8 years, Belgrade was bombed and destroyed 5 times.
Wow.
1941, by the Nazi Germans. Why? Because the Serbs and the people in Belgrade, including my grandmother, they coming out of the street when Prince Paul signed the pact with Hitler. They said, better grave than a slave. No slavery.
Wow.
Better grave than a slave.
I've
So
heard
Hitler
that.
was mad. Couple of weeks after, disaster, bombing, killing civilian victims. Before that, 1914, how the First World War start? Accusing Serbs and Serbia, declared the war, and they start bombing. You know what was the first victim of the First World War?
The library.
This building.
Oh, this
the
building.
library.
Wow.
This
This
is the
library.
of the Belgrade. This building, and you can find the photos in the internet.
Wow.
How the first grenade fall down and cut just one corner of this building.
Oh my
this
gosh.
was the first victim of the First World War.
Wow.
And of course, they bombed and destroyed city in 1914. Austrians and Hungarians, Habsburg's monarchy. Then 1 year later, because they lose the battles in the First World War, for on small kingdom of Serbia. They do it again 1915, but together with the Germans. So the Germans, Austrians, Hungarians, they bombed the city. Then I mentioned 1941, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Germans. But it was not the end. 1944, who bombed and destroyed the city? Anglo-Americans. Why? The airplanes from Africa go to bomb the Ploiești in Romania, oil fields. It was a foggy. On the way back, they said, we have the bombs, we didn't drop them. What shall we do? Drop them in Belgrade. So they dropped them in the Belgrade. Unfortunately, they dropped most of the bomb in concentration camp and extermination, one of many in Belgrade. I'm not sure, but you can find that they said about 2,000 people who died from this bombing. And of course, in the end, in this 20th century, for this period of only 80 years for one average human life, the last bombing was in 1999. I was here, I watched this with my children, with my family, when the NATO, led by Anglo-Americans again, bombed the Belgrade. So that's why the history of Belgrade is confusing. That's why the architecture is full of differences. That's why you can be in one street and see the building from the end of 19th century, the building of beginning of 20th century, middle of 20th century, 21st century, everything 100 years, just building by building, one by one. And the most important thing, why this city is amazing, it's a very open, cosmopolitan city. 17 different nations live here. This is one of the very rare cities that you can find the Jewish synagogue, the Catholic Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, the Protestant Church, the mosque in diameter of 500 meters for 5 minutes walking. Because the Belgrade never have ghettos, never have different part of the cities for different people, because everybody is here like at home. I am the person who can show you this very easily. Most of the people here are like me. I'm the mixture of 4 different nations. So everybody came from somewhere, and everybody find a soul. And this is it. That's how the Belgrade live. Because everybody here, we have a sentence, we have, in Belgrade, everybody is home. Why? Because everybody comes from somewhere here. So everybody is a strangers, it means everybody is at home. Okay. But this is the liberty. This is à la France. It's just exactly only for the France. And why to the France? Because something that you probably don't know is that when the First World War started, the population in Serbia was about 4.5 million. Do you know how many people was killed in the First World War in Serbia?
No.
1 million?
1,250,000. Can you imagine this? They wipe out more than 30% of the population, more than 60% of male population from 16 till 60. There was nobody to work after that. Those who rest was crippled, etc., etc., etc. So, my question is, why the First World War start? Tell me, anything you know.
Oh, it started off because they shot Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo.
This answer gives 99% of the people. But of course, it's not true. It never happened in the history that any war start because of any assassination. Before that, the Austrian, not the princess, not the queen, the emperor and his wife. His wife was killed in Geneva Lake by one Italian anarchist. So the war didn't start. The fascists, probably organized by Mussolini, Italian fascists, they killed the Serbian king, Alexander, in Marseille with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of France. But the war didn't start. Preparation to attack Serbia in Vienna was already done 6 months before the assassination. And the answer in my question, and for those who have this answer, because it's the one of the best example of propaganda, of marketing. Even today, everybody said this, because they need excuse for the crime they done, for 1,250,000 people killed in the 4 years, wiped out one nation. So what happens? The answer is okay. If this is the reason why the boys from Australia and New Zealand come and fight against the Turkey, 100%, all of them, they never heard for the city of Vienna. They never heard for this prince who was assassinated in Sarajevo. But they was in the war. New Zealanders and Australians and Canadians against the Turks. Turks against the... Of course, the war is a very serious thing. The Vienna, the Austrians, Austro-Hungarian Empire, what they want? They want a gate to the Black Sea. Because here in Belgrade, they changed from period to period. Owners, rulers of the city was Austro-Hungarians or Turks. Turks or Austro-Hungarians. 350 years, 3.5 centuries they fight for this. They just continue to fight.
It's too strategic here.
Of course, if they have a Danube from Vienna, if they have a Belgrade from Vienna, they can directly go to Istanbul, control everything. That was the real reason. So in this war, there was thousands of orphans. There was villages that even today nobody lived.
Wow.
The thousands of orphans you can see here. See? They are kneeling. They are kneeling and watching a new mother. They go, and many thousands of French families accept the children from Serbia
Wow.
without parents.
Wow.
They give them the education, support, everything. And when they finish the school, when they start to be the doctors, engineers, whatever, they come back in Serbia to rebuild Serbia again. And of course they said, so what can we do now? We have two mothers. One is a Serbia, another is a France. So they decide to collect the money. We call them French pupils. And they build a monument dedicated to new mother,
Nice.
France. So in the back it's written, we love France and she loves us, 1914, 1918. So because of the conflicts in 21st century, in the end of 20th century, in the Second World War, most of the people just forget the First World War. It was a horror like any other war, but it was beginning of this huge global conflict. And this is one of the monuments to talk you about this.
Nice.
Look, you can see the flag of the Belgrade.
Oh, that's the flag of
In
Belgrade.
the entrance, in the upper town, because upper town is the fortress inside the fortress.
Okay.
And the symbols are very simple. Blue is the sky, white tower, it means the fortress. And then you have two white stripes. It's a rivers, Sava and Danube. And you have a boat. As you said, the highway of the past. But the red is blood. Because for the Belgrade you can find different numbers. But let's say there was 115 heavy battles for the city.
Wow.
And for the period of more than 2,000 years, according to some scholars, there was about 6 million people killed.
Wow.
Just for one reason, everybody wants to have control.
Right.
And they need this place for control.
Right.
And if you go to Istanbul, in Constantinople, built by Constantine the Great, if you go to the old city and the walls and the fortress, you will see Belgrade Gate.
I didn't think about that. I've been there.
Big, you've been there.
Yeah.
You will find in internet, you can find. But why? Because it was important for Ottoman Empire to have the road directly from Constantinople, Istanbul to Belgrade.
Oh, wow.
Like it was the same for Constantine, who made the imperial road near the Danube.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire was connected with the roads. That was keep empire together. And also for them was important to have connection, not only the river, also the road.
Right.
So I just show you to see just a little bit. This is a green area, it's Kale Megdan, the field
Okay.
in front of the fortress. This is the fortress, about 56 hectares big. One of the largest in Europe. And this was the city, lower town. The people live here near the rivers.
Oh,
This is Nebojša Tower, the tower who protect the harbor, the port.
Okay.
There was a channel who came inside for control the goods, the people, the sailors. change them, to bring the girls if they needed, music, water, food. And always in a peaceful time, Belgrade grew up like a mushroom. The money came here, everywhere, because life is easy here.
Right.
And then there was upper town, the fortress, in the fortress, with those tunnels and many underground things for the rulers. 17 Roman emperors was born in Serbia.
Wow.
One in Belgrade. Of course they were here.
Right.
Many sultans, pashas, viziers, Serbian kings, Hungarian kings, Byzantine emperors, who knows who. You know who came to destroy the city? Avari, Tatari, Hungari, Bugari. Hazari, they never came. But then they came the Slavic tribes. Serbi, Hrvati, Sarmati, Rusi. When I mentioned to you, see that this is the group of the tribes. Prussians, Eastern Germany. It was a Slavic. Even today, if you need it, find the toponyms of the rivers, of the mountains, of the lakes, it's Serbian or Russian, whatever, it's the same language with the little differences. We can understand each other 60%. Anyway, so here was the point of ruling in the important European point for over 2,000 years. Amazing, crazy. Everywhere in the world you have so many fortresses. Ancient time, Greek, Roman, medieval time, Crusaders, Turks, Austrians, French, Italian fortresses, but this one is everything because everybody was here.
They kept building onto it and making it better and better.
Yes, they improve it because if they develop the weapons, of course they develop the fortress. So you will see one of the examples of how it looks. You can see all the styles everywhere in every corner. One example, look, you see this guardian tower to protect the gate. You see the corners. Of course they rebuild it. But when they start with the renovation and rebuilding, they discovered the ricochet of the bullet.
Oh, wow.
So the new one they built like this,
Huh.
around. No corners, you see?
Oh,
This
wow.
one. They keep this one because they're okay. They didn't want to waste the money and time. It was okay. But every new was a change. Wooden covered with the iron.
Right.
With this, we try to keep them. This is Istanbul gate. And of course this works for the soldiers, for the guardians who live here, control who is coming in, who is coming out. You need to pass one gate, then another gate, then the third gate. It was not easy to come to the ruler, even
Right.
today.
Right. They had it figured out.
Right. So, before we go to the underground again, look. In one moment, the cannons was strong to put the fire, to destroy the gate and put the fire in another gate. And Austrians, in that time, they took Eugene of Savoy, Eugene of Savoy, one of the greatest men in the beginning of 18th century. He came from Vienna. He took the Belgrade from the Ottoman Turks in one amazing battle. He came from Novi Sad, surround the fortress, surround the people, and then from Niš, the Turks sent another army who surrounded him, but he beat them, those inside, those outside, and took the city. Amazing story. But then they reconstruct the fortress, and they close the gate. The bricks, you see, the gate was here. And what the clever Austrians do, they just move the gate. You see, it's diagonal.
It's funny.
And they make the tower to watch possible approach of the enemy. And of course, they put the clock. In that time, they already have the clock. And of course, who make the clock inside?
Austrians.
Swiss. It's a Swiss clock.
For funny.
Okay.
Hey, Vern.